faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
Good evening and welcome to the Phoenix Podcast Show with yours truly, Ken Sharpe. Today as a guest, I'm privileged to have Leslie Marange, a businessman, an entrepreneur, a successful man in his own right. And I can't wait to get to hear your story, Leslie. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
So tell us your journey that's led you to become the owner, the chief executive officer, the managing director of Glytime Foods. Tell us, how did this start? And I believe the name came from your mother and sister.
Oh, yes. No, it's actually a story that when I reflect on it, I just say, you know what, anything is possible in this life. Growing up as a young man, I grew up in a prison camp.
Wow.
In Bulawayo, Kami prison, where my father was a prison officer and my mother was a teacher. So at a very tender age, I think I was doing my grade 6 when we were doing home economics. I managed to cook yellow rice. I just added a bit of essence to the rice, and it went viral in the community that this guy is a very good cook, and okay. I picked that as a passion. And as I was going on, I think when I was 15, Form 3, there's a lady who then told me there's food science at A level and there's a degree in food science. So at a very tender age, my career was then set, and I then started following through. And when I was now at college doing food science and technology, I got inspiration from Kellogg's and Nestle. And the biggest question that I asked myself is, if these guys have managed to do it to grow a global brand, why not ourselves? If I have managed to get the necessary competence, the necessary skill, why not also grow a competent brand? So Glytime was actually it's a brand that has been grown from a very, very strong history and strong passion and a strong desire to change the status quo, because I think we have the competence, we actually have the knowledge, and we have the drive to make things into existence. And I'm living the dream, and things are actually shaping up as planned.
So tell us a little bit more about Glytime Foods. So how many people do you employ? What are the typical products you sell? What does a day look like for you going to work?
Currently, my title, when you introduced me as the Chief Executive Officer, but now it has changed. It's now Chief Opportunity Officer.
Nice.
Yeah, now I'm hunting for opportunities so that we grow the brand, we make it more firm. Glytime currently employs around 42 young people, and I think of the 42, I'm the oldest at 34, and the other guys are young, very brilliant young people. And 54% of them are women.
54%?
54%,
That's impressive.
yeah.
At Westprop, we have a 50% gender equality policy.
Okay.
But now I finally found someone who beat us.
Yeah,
so congratulations.
I'm 4%
That's good.
ahead. Yeah, so typically, most of the women, they work in the market as merchandisers, and we have got a very good constitute of women in our management team. For us, every day, we are just trying to set new bars, new targets. We are just trying to change the status quo. As Glytime, we don't view Zimbabwe as a market, because if you look at active people in the economy, like people who can buy our products, they are not more than 2 million. So we look beyond Zimbabwe as a market. So we are scouting around where else can we distribute our product, where else can we find a footing in the continent. So we are viewing Africa as our market. I think that's where the difference is. So there's a lot of research that we do, there's a lot of travel that we do, a lot of engagements that we do with people who are outside Zimbabwe, so that at least we grow our horizon. And even the consolidation of the taste profiles, Right. Yeah, there is also research that needs to be done to say in West Africa, what are the taste profiles like in North Africa, what are the taste profiles Southern Africa, how do we come up with a product that can unify the test profiles and even the quality index around that matrix. So I think there's a lot of work, research. I think that's why I also like to work with young people with energy, so that at least we manage to consolidate that. Because the vision is we want to grow Glytime to be a global brand, to actually cement our position in the globe. And you can actually see the tail signs of that happening. And I think maybe in the next 10, 15 years, we would have a very good coverage across the globe as Glytime Foods.
So we're going to talk a bit more about that in a minute. Yep. Zimbabwean brand to Kamesa brand, SADC, Africa, and then global.
Yes.
So that growth plan I'd like to hear more about. But just take us back to the factory. So you mentioned you have 2 million customers. Does this mean that some customers can't afford your product, or how do you differentiate your customer base? Why target market of 2 million?
Well, I think it's health and wellness. It's a new social value. People are actually learning to understand the brand. They're actually learning the benefits of the brand. It's unlike when you are into, commodity products where you reach out to all people, your pasta, rice, or your mealie meal. Everyone can understand what it is all about. But I think what we are introducing in the market is a new way of. Is something that is new to the market. It's new to Southern Africa. We're introducing health and wellness. If you go to Europe, there is more appreciation, but it's now coming back, it's cascading down to Southern Africa. So we need to teach the market the benefits of health and wellness. And now, because of the insurgence of non-communicable diseases, why many people, why our life expectancy have, shortened. If you look at even last year's statistics, they're actually saying more deaths in Zimbabwe are due to non-communicable diseases. Traditionally, it was HIV and AIDS and tuberculosis, but now it's non-communicable diseases. So at the end of the day, we need to educate people to say, you know what, there's a new elephant in the room, and probably this is how you can curb it. You can curb it on a dietary regime and on a lifestyle regime. So at the end of the day, we are teaching Zimbabweans how it is to live healthy, the consistency and the benefit of, eating healthy food.
So your products have a slight premium attached to them?
In terms of price point,
yes.
No. But in terms of knowledge, yes. In price point, I think we actually, we don't have anything that sells above $6-7.
So give us some examples of products that compete with major brands, and what the difference is between your product in terms of health benefits, in terms of ingredients that you use. Talk to the audience and explain why are you different. What is your unique selling proposition?
The first thing is we are GMO free. Everything that we use is GMO free. We don't use anything that is GMO. And there is actually a way of actually tracing. We actually have certificates of compliance from the suppliers, that and certificates of declaration. Why? Because Zimbabwe, as a law, we don't use GMOs. So we comply to that, and as a business, we don't want to use GMOs. That's number one. Number two, you look at, we have got 4 indexes that we use to develop our products. Number one, we develop products that are high in fiber. Why high in fiber? Because when the fiber content is high, it helps in the digestive process, and it also helps in terms of, the reducing of cholesterol and even the bowel movements and things like that. So fiber contributes much more bigger in health and wellness. Number two, the low sugar. I think the reason why the government is now taxing sugar is because sugar is
a drug, right?
It's a drug.
It's a drug.
It's a drug.
It's highly addictive.
Yes, highly addictive. So our products are very low in sugar, which is also very desirable. And we don't use any cholesterol, because for non-communicable diseases to thrive, they need cholesterol to thrive, When the cholesterol level is high, that's where your sugar diabetes, your cancer, your hypertension, and all other diseases, they thrive on high weight, or they thrive on obesity, or they thrive on cholesterol. So we don't use any cholesterol in our products. And then the last thing is sodium chloride, which is salt. We actually, in most of the products, we don't use salt. So at the end of the day, we have managed to develop a test profile that is very good. When you test our products, I think many people can confirm, especially our cookies, that the test profile is very good. but it has got we are very cognizant about these 4 dynamics. And these are the 4 dynamics that then push the non-communicable diseases. So you look at the space that we compete in, we have got oats, we have got players like your Django Oats, we have got players like your Kellogg's, players like your Nestle, locally your National Foods. So we are surrounded by the big giants, but we are coming out as a David in that scenario of big giants, because we are managing our dynamics. We are also communicating well our offering to the market, and also I think we are reaching out to a broader market base than most local brands, which is also a positive. So I think this is the preposition.
So
that
you
we
mentioned
have.
oats,
Yes,
Leslie,
yes.
and for me, I'm a basic man.
Yeah.
I just do property.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
know much about nutrition.
Okay.
Although I had a food company for 30 years. But for me,
Yeah.
oats is oats, right?
Yeah.
So what is the difference between your oats and anyone else's oats? Is
So-
it not the same thing?
So we specialize on rolled oats. Rolled oats are the ones that are high in fiber. They're different from quick oats.
So when you hear of rolled oats, you hear of stone rolled oats?
Yes.
And
So
milled oats? What is
yes,
the difference
yes.
between?
So at the end of the day, rolled oats are different from quick oats or instant oats. Rolled oats possesses more fiber, 10-15% more than quick oats. So it becomes more desirable, and it actually brings better results in terms of weight loss, in terms of the heart management and things like that. So our preposition, pretty much we'll be doing everything. Like the biscuits are biscuits, but we then differentiate them so that they can suit the profiles of health and wellness. So every offering that we offer, we put our thoughts to it so that those 4 pillars are well managed: your high fiber, your low sugar, low cholesterol, low sodium chloride.
In every single one of your products?
In every single one of, and our products would constitute your granola cereal, which is 55% oats. And oats is the most healthy cereal that we have in this world. And with oats, if you go on an oat diet, when you're diabetic, when you are suffering from these NCDs, it actually helps you to manage those dynamics better. So the granola cereal, we also do vegetarian products. We do cookies, snacks, high fiber, low sugar cookies. We also have your honey. We do snacks, and a couple of other products, but all in the health and wellness spectrum.
So you mentioned granola. I love granola. I eat it every day with
That's
yogurt
good.
and honey.
That's
So
good.
tell me, eating raw oats,
Yeah.
uncooked, is that more healthy and easier to digest than perhaps boiled oats or overnight soaked oats?
Well, overnight soaked oats tend to be more, if you soak them, the fermentation process that then happens, you have got an extractive effect of enhancing the flavor and also enhancing the nutritional component. Oats, pretty much you can't eat them raw. You need to at least pre-boil them, so that at least they are edible. Some they do as muesli, but it's not very desirable on the taste profile and things like that. Yeah. So we advocate even on our cooking instruction to say, just spend a bit of 4 or 5 minutes to boil your oats, add a bit of peanut butter, and enjoy them. So in terms of the preparation now depends with preferences and things like that. And I mean, all the preferences, all the application can apply depending on, you can't follow one step every day. Next time you want them fermented, next time you want them boiled, next time you want them as muesli, next time. So that diversity is also necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me, in the last 2 minutes of this segment, your manufacturing process, if you were to choose one product, the healthiest product in your business,
Yes.
what would it be? And tell us how it's made. I believe you manufacture almost all your products.
Yes, I do. Well, I would not want to say the most healthiest, but let me talk about the most desired.
Okay.
Our oats, our cookies, I think those ones have got 101% market acceptance. Everyone just loves them. I think the fat content is balanced, the taste is balanced, the nutritional component is balanced. Some of them, the cookies, we add pumpkin seed. Some of them we add macadamia nuts, and they all constitute oats. They've got 10-15% constitute of oats. People just love them. I mean, they've got that satiety in their making. So those oats we have tried to, work on a very, 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 very low sugar component so that they can just taste a bit. We have also not added any butter. There's no butter in them. There's no milk in them. But when you taste them, you think, every ingredient has been added to them. I think that's one thing that we have done very well. And if ever we are going to excel in this market, is all about pushing that product very much, and also making sure that the distribution channel of that product is almost everywhere, because you go to Denmark, they love it. You go to Germany, they love it. Everywhere they always talk about these oats, about these oats, the cookies. So I think we have done very well on that product, and I think if we can have 2 or 3 of that nature, definitely I think we'll achieve our intended goals.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah. Stay tuned. From prison camp to multimillionaire entrepreneur, Leslie Marange. Yeah.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
So we're back, Leslie, with the OTs.
Yes.
Tell us and let our viewers understand, what are some of the processes involved in the production you have of your different brands? How exactly do you make these biscuits? Take us through let's say the buying, the procurement of the raw materials, right up until when you distribute it to the supermarkets and put it on the shelf. Tell us the whole vertical chain.
No, thank you. I think the first thing that we do is the selection of suppliers. Like I've mentioned before, that our products are GMO free. So we have managed to identify suppliers who also conform with natural organic products. So they issue us what we call a certificate of compliance on non-GMO products. They also send us samples so that we also validate. I think there are quick tests that we do, in-house quick tests that also indicate if the products if you have GMOs, and if the product do not have allergens. And then we then make the payment, they ship the products, and then when we receive the product, we have got what we call, it's an in-process, an input quality analysis process that we do. We check, things like your pesticides, your weevils, and things like that. And if the product is okay, we take it in the factory. When we take it in the factory, like I've mentioned, we have got a set of dry ingredients that we use. We use your oats, we use your flour, we use your desiccated coconut, and all other different ingredients, right? But our products do not have milk. We don't use milk in them. We don't use butter in them. And then we add the dry products to the wet products, and then we oven bake for about 45 minutes. And then after 45 minutes, we cool the product, we pack it, and then we distribute. We've got different distributors in different areas. In Zambia, we've got a distributor there. In Botswana, we've got a distributor there. Here locally, we have a distributor. We take the products to the distributors. The distributors then distribute the product to the major retail shops. And we also have a huge clientele base on the corporate side. We do corporate hampers for your festive seasons, your events, and things like that. So we also do that in a big way. So in a nutshell, this is how we do our processes. Yeah.
So tell us, in your ingredients, your raw materials,
yes.
What percentage is local? We all want to buy Zimbabwean, but how practical is it, and what kind of ingredients do you have to import? What percentage?
Well, I think so far 60% of our ingredients are local, mainly honey. Honey, we consolidate around, last year we consolidated around 72 tons of honey, mainly in Manicaland. Your Chimanimani, Bema Valley, Honde Valley, Devure Range, and we consolidated about 72 tons. We also use macadamia, which comes from Chipinge. We also use your flour comes from local millers. But pretty much our oats, we don't have a very good constitute of oats being planted in the country. Yes, we've got a few farmers that do oats, but not a lot of them, and they are seasonal.
So is that an opportunity for farmers to grow
Yes, it's
oats?
a big opportunity. It's a big opportunity because now with the new expansion that we are working on, we'll be consuming about 5,000 tons of oats.
5,000 tons of oats?
5,000 tons of oats. So
just your business?
Yes, just my business.
So the country, what do you think the demand for oats could be?
Well, I think it can be more. I'm thinking of maybe 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
50,000 tons.
Yeah, 50,000 tons.
That's huge.
Yeah, because...
And there are not many producers right now?
Yeah, there are no... I think I know just 3-4 guys in the market.
In the whole country?
In the whole
You've
country.
heard it, farmers get growing oats, right?
Yes. I think it's a good opportunity for a lot of farmers. So oats currently we rely on, and some of the products that we can do, like your coconut, we don't have it. Like your palm oil, you don't have it in the local market. We rely on Mozambique, in terms of importation. So I think there's also that opportunity for us to...
And climatically, can we grow coconuts?
Yeah, sure we can. Sure we can. I think we can. Everything. Now that there is this technology, people can manipulate genes and, to suit whatever climatic conditions that are available. So I think if people are intentional enough, there's that opportunity for us to really, grow these things on our own and even make them more sustainable.
So I believe you got a master's degree in food science.
It's in business administration.
Business admin.
Yes,
so
my first degree.
Bachelor's in food science.
Yes, my bachelor's is in food science and an MBA in strategic management.
So with 2 degrees behind you, looking at some of the more complicated diet restrictions. For example, we often hear of gluten-free products. Tell us, what is this all about and how does it affect those who are gluten intolerant? Okay. I've got a friend who's celiac, which is a higher level as well. And what are the products, some of your products that could be given to these type of people?
So on our offering, the biggest constituent of our products, we use gluten. This gluten-free thing is something, it's a new insurgence, it's coming in the market. So as an alternative, instead of using flour, wheat flour, which then constitutes gluten, we substitute it with banana flour, cassava flour, different kind of flours, which we also get locally. But banana flour and sweet potato flour also does not have. So it's just an issue of removing wheat-based products and then introducing these alternatives. So we have an alternative, but our market is not too big in that regard. Yes, we've got offerings in that regard, but it doesn't possess a very, very huge market. So yeah, there are people who are gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant. I think that's why we also do away with any milk-based products in our offering to also cater for that market. Yeah.
So coming back to the opportunities, would you say, I talked to someone the other day who's doing products from the marula fruit, baobab trees, and they were saying marula flour is a really good product as well. So do you think some of the indigenous fruits we could make more flour out of and use that in the process? And is that not an advantage to the export markets, let's say America, where exotic products, exotic fruits, exotic flavors would be something that's new for their markets?
Yes. No, I think if we really look at it, the heritage-based approach, especially for Zimbabwe, is the winning formula. Because look, like you have rightly mentioned, baobab has got a very good constituent of nutrients. The baobab, marula, even the nuts. Recently, I received a lunch box full of, the marula nut from Rutenga, and I was surprised how these guys all managed to harness that. So I think if we go on the heritage based, it gives us an edge, especially in the global market, because we are utilizing or we are riding on the existing indigenous resource base that we have, and it gives us a unique value proposition. You remember what China did with goji berries. Yes, they leveraged on it and they pushed the goji berries. And also there's now need for intentionality to actually say, no one is allowed to actually take seedlings from this area so that there's no replication of what is naturally endured in our country. So heritage-based, to me, I think I'm also going to get into that space aggressively. I think that's why we now do products with macadamia. Very soon we'll be introducing products with moringa. We'll be introducing product with marula nuts. We'll be introducing product with baobab. We want to go big on heritage-based because, you know what, I think that's the future, especially in food manufacturing. That's where the unique preposition actually comes from. Your Masau and your Nyi, your Tsubu, and all these other indigenous products. So it's an issue of us, curating around that and even creating a very good value proposition, and it will give us an edge. And it gives us a competitive advantage and even sustainability, because where would China get Tsubu and where would it get Nyi unless if they come to Zimbabwe? And so we need to actually leverage on that and actually get the best of that portion.
So looking at nutritional value and the new catchword superfoods, which one, and we've just heard the blueberry results of Zimbabwe, it's phenomenal.
Yes,
but if you were to identify one of the superfoods that is more indigenous, where do you think the next big opportunity is? Which one would it be?
I think there are several fruits that I think if they are value added, they can give but the biggest one, you should be baobab. Baobab, in terms of the commerciality, there's a lot of baobab, and you can actually create commercial viability around the scalability. There is also Masau. I think Masau also possesses a very good nutrient component in terms of the vitamin C component and things like that. And even the marula that we have also mentioned, I think it also have a good leverage. And I think the last one would be the Nyi, that's more sweet Nyi. I think if we play around that, there's a lot of commercial viability that can, but baobab to me stands out. I think baobab, look at what Deribo did with their baobab juice and look at how it's flying in the region. So I think there is more opportunity in that space. So we need to pay a bit of attention in that space and see how we can grow our market through those.
So maybe there's a need for you to lead a think tank, an incubator for people who have interest and passion about local products to come up with something.
Yes.
The next big thing, right?
Yeah, I think there is now a bit of drive from our local universities, especially if you look at Chinhoyi University, Harare Institute of Technology. There's a big drive in terms of, this heritage-based innovation. So I think more is now there's now need for communication between industry and research. If there is communication between the two and working together and even technology transfer, we can achieve more. But I think now we are working in isolation. Universities are doing a lot of research and industry is also pushing in this direction. So there's need for a collaborative effort where industry and academia work together for a common cause. I think we can achieve more if we do that.
So looking at some of your experiences, I believe you're a corporate director for one of the big food manufacturers. If you don't mind disclosing who that was, and I think you even won the best startup of the year for 2020. So your company has grown really quickly. Just tell us, what made you leave the corporate world? Where were you, and how did you get started?
To me, I think I was working for a company called Star Africa. Star Africa, I think it was one of the biggest blue chip in the country. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a synergy between Westbev, one of your companies, right?
We sold Westbev
to Star Africa. Yes. And now my operations director now was your production manager at Westbev. Yeah, and thank you for training him. He's a good guy, eh? Yeah, so in that space, I mean, Star Africa is a big organization. We used to do daily production of 300 plus tons of sugar. And when I went in that system, I was a very young man, at around 24. I went in there as head of laboratory. Within 8 months, they promoted me to be a trainee process manager. 9 months, I was substantiated to be a process manager. I was managing a team of over 420 people.
Imagine. At what age?
Yeah, at around 25.
25.
There was the production side, the laboratory, the stores, engineering, roles. It was a very big portfolio for me. But it quickly helped me to consolidate how a business is managed, back to back, because at any given time as a process manager, you are responsible for literally everything that happens in the plant. You need to make decision of, the availability of water, electricity, spare parts, production, output, quality, everything. So I got into a very robust training. And I still remember I did that job for about 3.5 years. And I told myself, if I go out and do anything, I can't fail because I've been trained. And we also were part of the team that also was involved in the installation of the new plant, when there was a plant upgrade. So I saw it happening. How do you source for equipment? How do you install it? How do you integrate the old and the new? How do you train people to have the competence? And then I think after 3.5 years, I became a group product development manager. And I then appreciated the commercial side of things. And to me, I had a picture of what exactly needs to be done, how it has to be done, and when it has to be done. So I just literally jumped out of the system. And that's why my growth is catalyzed, because I had the blueprint, I saw what needs to be done, what has to be done, and all the indicators, of how to run a food manufacturing plant.
So was it intentional, Leslie, from the very beginning when you started working? Did you know you would own your own business one day?
Very much.
Okay.
Very much. Because just soon after college, I was a street vendor. I was selling, things from distributors, and we used to get things. We are the first guys to sell things in the street. And one of because I did my attachment at South Africa. So our now chief operations officer was my boss. So he actually said, no, can you come through and learn how the cooperative world? So I actually went there intentionally to actually learn. And I knew after 5 years I would have consolidated. So I was very intentional about what I needed to do. And after my 5-year period, whether I just said to myself, I'm going out. I went out and I started this thing. And look, now it's...
So you've heard it, have a plan from the beginning, be intentional.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, we'll be back in a few minutes.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe. Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.
So Leslie, with over 20 notable business leadership awards, only 4 years in business, this is a remarkable story.
Thank you.
Tell us, how important is capital? You said you started out, you knew that you were going to do business. Yeah. How did you save? How did you have the capital to start?
Well, I think that's the most difficult part of business, especially in Zimbabwe. When I left my job, I think I had a bit of savings. I saved a bit, but unfortunately, 2018 was a very inflationary year. I lost almost everything that I had saved. And I also get a boost from my brother who wanted me to apply for, this SAQA so that I go to South Africa and look for a decent job. I misused that money and, injected it back in the business. And inflation had the best share of it. So I think, to be honest, it's very difficult to do business without capital. But also, if capital comes too quick, it's also a problem. I think there's need for you to learn the ropes. There's need for you to learn the dynamics. Because obviously the environment that we are operating in Zimbabwe is a VUCA environment. It's very volatile, it's very uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. We are just in an environment where there's a lot of turbulence, especially from the police side of things. Every day there's a policy change and you need to cope up with it, which is affecting the entire industry. But today there's this pronunciation, the banks don't borrow. Tomorrow there's this pronunciation, there's increase in interest rates. Tomorrow there's this pronunciation, there's increase in inflation. There are a lot of dynamics that I play. So to me, I think initially it was internally generated, my own saving and from the family. And then after that, I went to convince Old Mutual Microfinance to get a loan. I got a loan from them and we tried to manage. I think that's when we started exporting. And that's how we also managed to know that you can actually hedge currency by exporting and things like that. After that, there are several banks that also came through, your Stanbic Bank, the enterprise banking. They came into play, your EcoBank, they came into play, Bank ABC, they came into play. And I think the most important thing is lending is a trust issue. Once something has been lended to you, there is need for you to do the honorable thing, to repay. And not just repay within the timelines. And I've also learned a lot during the period, because it doesn't mean I've been able to pay all the money within the required timelines. Some of the monies, we restructured the loans based on the dynamics around the market. So there's also need for stakeholder engagement, to say, guys, things have not worked according to plan. I need your help to, and our bankers are very open-minded people. Some of them were together at college. Some of them, we grew up together. So they are not our enemies. So they'll help you to restructure things, to, try and, keep the business alive. So I've also moved into that period where there's internally generated funds, bank loans. And after bank loans, the next thing will be private equity. Now I'm in that private equity stage where Old Mutual has invested in us we were split shareholding, and so now it's a process, but you need to go through that process. And what then lends you into private equity is your history. How have you been conducting yourself? Because remember, I borrowed Old Mutual Microfinance 2-3 times, and the same people who were sitting in that board are the same people who also gave you the structure in terms of private equity. So there's need for that discipline. But I think the problem that I've seen in our environment is gratification. I would want to drive the same vehicle that Ken Sharpe is driving. I'm just 5 years in business.
Rolls-Royce better than mine.
Yes,
I don't have a Rolls-Royce.
Yeah, and Ken Sharpe has been in the industry for 40 years or even more than that. So I think as young people, we need to also focus on what matters, For now, for me, is the business. Even after the private equity, I haven't changed my lifestyle. I haven't bought myself a new car. I haven't, and some even changed their wife. I haven't changed my wife. So I think it's also that discipline that is important for us to, to know and follow through, because capital follows discipline, capital follows viability, capital follows integrity, capital follows sustainability. So there's need for that aspect to be integrated in the way of how we do business. And once you are in that space, you're now open to, everyone wants to have a conversation with you. Everyone wants to give you money. But if you don't create that value chain, and if you don't create that value or trust system, then that's a problem. So I think that those are the key fundamentals. And even, before private equity came, there was a lot of robust interrogation of the business. The numbers, are they making sense? Are you, what you're saying and what is on the ground, is there a tally? Old Mutual, they sent a BDO to come and look into the numbers. Legally, don't you have issues in the courts? Your Triple G was there to interrogate. And I think those guys spent more than 300,000 to try and interrogate the business case. So it's also very important for you to also stay away from whatever, things that can taint your business in a way that then does not attract capital. So it is the discipline for me that I would advocate for, to say, let's be disciplined, let's delay gratification, let's also make sure that the business is viable. what we say, and let's also do the numbers in a right way. Let's save the management accounts, let's declare, let's be authentic in whatever we do. Once we are authentic in whatever we do, it's easy to raise capital. Every money follows, proper dynamics.
So having good values, ethics, and systems that gradually grow the business organically is the most important lesson we're hearing here today. In your summary, if I was to say to you, and to answer the question many people out there asking, we need to start business but we don't have capital. Do you wait for capital to come, or do you just start?
I think the honest truth is capital follows ideas.
There you go.
Yeah, capital follows ideas. I think it's a scapegoat, I would say, to say I failed to start because I do not have capital. Maybe the thing is, what have you done because from where I started in our house kitchen using our house oven, right? I developed a prototype from a house oven, and when I was going to lobby, I went with something in my hands. I never needed capital I went with something. This is what I'm doing, this is what I've started, and this is where I need to go. At the end of the day, you then see that I think many young people, we create the prototype from where you are. If your family cannot borrow you money, if your friends, if your churchmates cannot borrow you money, then there is a problem.
Who's going to do it?
Yeah, they need to give you the initial start so that at least you develop that prototype. And when I developed the prototype, I still remember I met Stephen, the procurement director for TM Pick and Pay. We met, I was just showcasing 3 or 4 prototypes and say, where are you doing this from? I said, from my house. And I said, no, come, I want to list you.
Excellent.
So all these things, they fall in place. But what you need to do is to have a prototype. You need to have a proven concept that is viable.
Thank you, Leslie. So we've got just under 10 minutes left. I want to get into the personal side, but I've got one more business question.
Okay.
85% of your sales are domestic, 15 export.
Yes.
And I understand of the local sales, 60% is local currency, RTGS, 40% US dollar.
Yes.
Talk to us, why do you need to move more to US dollars, and what's happened with your business in the local sales?
I think we got a very big shock around July, I think when there was too much inflation. And I think, to be honest with you, the retail as it stands, there is a lot of depreciation of value. We are failing to conserve value.
So tell the audience, you supply something, you don't get paid for how many days?
Okay. I think on the retailers, they have actually also tried to modify their, I would want to apportion blame to them. TM Pick and Pay 7-14 days, they pay you, 7-14 days. Yes, after supply, 7-14 days. They've also made the adjustments, but I think it's the externality, the rate at which the value depreciate in the external environment, which is a problem. I take a product probably at a value of $1 to 5,000 to the supermarket. By the time I get paid after a week, maybe $1 is now 6.5. Already there's an exchange loss that I've suffered. So this has been happening over and over again, over and over again, over and over. And even most of the business that have closed over the years is because of that issue. Not because they do not have viable businesses, but because there's this continued depreciation of value, continued depreciation. I can tell you, if you go to OK, if you go to Pick and Pay, there's even early settlement discounts. They try to even pay you within 7 days. But even in that period, whenever there's a pronouncement, maybe from the government, maybe from, these key people, then the currents also respond in that way. So we are also now trying to look for a market. And now I think in a way, we have tried to find a solution. We are now doing more of corporates, preparing your corporate hampers.
B2B.
Yeah, B2B. I think there's more sustainability around that. There's more stability in current. But now the market size is not as big as the retail side.
Right.
And I think we are now also trying to intensify on because local currency, to be honest, is giving us a problem. We would want our local currency for us to grow, but we want it to be stable. If there is a way that it can be stabilized so that we can plan for 6, 8, 12 months, it will be good for us. But for now, there's a lot of shocks that we are receiving. Every 2 days there's a change, every 3 days.
So we're going to
there's a change.
continue the discussion after
Yeah.
the program because I have an idea for you.
Thank you.
But I just want to take you back to your beginnings.
Yes.
Eastern Highlands,
Yeah.
Marange chieftainship,
Yeah.
your totem,
Yeah.
your family, your early days, your formative years.
Yes,
How
yes.
did these things influence you? Tell us a bit about this.
Marange is a district. We reign over a chieftainship of a district, very dry in terms of the climatic conditions, very hot, but it is also the biggest producer of diamond in this country. I think
We've heard of Marange diamonds.
Yes. I think it's sustaining the country in a big way. Though there are also some issues that we are still advocating for so that the diamond can also be beneficial to the people of Marange in a big way. Yes, some of my colleagues, some of my brothers are being employed in the system, but I think it's not enough. I think as business people, we also need preferences to supply the mine and different things like that. The current chief Marange is the one who will be as my father. So I'm actually a direct heir of the chieftainship.
Okay.
Yeah, but my father moved from Marange when I was, I think, 2-3 years to Blawayo, Kami prison, where I then stayed for about 18 years in a prison camp. I think staying in a prison camp really helped me in a big way because I would see the end game of being naughty.
Discouraged you.
Yes, it discouraged
When you live in
me.
prison for 18 years, you don't want to keep living there.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of proximity, my house was less than 30 meters from one
Can you
prison.
imagine?
Yes. So I could directly interact, with the suffering, with the turmoil,
With the
and
inmates.
with the inmates, and even share their pain,
Their stories.
Yeah, their stories and things like that. So to me, I told myself, you know what, the best thing that I can do is to be a disciplined person. And pretty much when I grew up, I think O level I was head boy, A level I was head boy. When I went to college, I was a student administrator, a sub-warden, and I've just assumed those leadership because I try to keep in track with the laws. And even today, we abide to the laws of the country. We try to pay our taxes on time. We try to pay our NASA. We just law-abiding citizens. We don't want problems because we know the end game of problems. So yeah, I grew up in that. And even when I was growing up, Kami is a highly diversified area, where you have people from Binga, you have people from Gai, Mashingo, Mtare, just coming in one place. So there are different cultures, there are different dialects, there are different ways of doing things, but you harmonize the society so that you can. So even my tolerance level is very high. I can go anyway, fit in very well because I came from a highly diversified environment, where there is tolerance, where there is acceptance, where there is all those aspects. Even when I travel, I don't have a problem with anyone because I understand diversity is what makes a society. So I think pretty much that's pretty much of my background. Now we've got a single parent, my mom, and we are 3 in our family. My brother, who is also doing very well in South Africa, myself and my young sister, who is part of the armed forces, and our surviving mom, who is here in Harare. I'm married. I've got 2 kids, 2 girls, very intelligent young girls. And I'm just trying, like any other Zimbabwean, to do the best in this lifetime, follow normal business principles, fight for my space in the corporate world, which is not easy, trying to manage the dynamics that come, remain focused, remain disciplined, and also I'm a very open-minded person. I don't believe in an intimidatory approach in life. I believe in shared values, shared approach, listening to people who have managed to do it, and also learn from them, take advice as much as I can to build the best. Because there are a lot of successful business people in Zimbabwe who have made it over a period of years. Look at yourself, Yoshingai Mtasa. For the past 4 years, 40 years, you have been in the market, you know the dynamics. So I also try to have that, interaction so that at least it cements my position, because that history is important to shape, the future.
History is the foundation.
Yes.
And we must project ourselves into the future.
Yes.
So I'm a man of the future. I don't live in 2023.
Yeah.
I'm living in 2050 at the moment.
That's good.
And the vision I see for my business is beyond 2050.
That's good.
So if you were to project yourself into the future, and I know you're helping to do some things like the Eagle's Nest, promoting business, promoting entrepreneurship, encouraging the youth. If you were to project yourself into the future, let's say 10, 20, 30, 50 years into the future, what do you see for yourself, and how can you bring this show to a close with a message for our audience?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Projecting the future and how I can bring it closer. To be honest with you, Ken, Glytime is going to be ranked in the wavelength of your Coca-Cola, your Nestle, your Kellogg's, your Unilever brothers. It's definitely going to be a global brand. There's no doubt about that. Why do I say so? That's the vision. And when we started Glytime, we never wanted it to be a local brand. We wanted to make it a big brand. And how am I then supporting that initiative? I then discovered something very interesting when I was also, doing my MBA, that there is what we call micro multinationals, right? Micro multinationals, they work in a very exciting way. It's like Glytime can be a small business in Zimbabwe, service the market in Zimbabwe, but I can also go and put up Glytime in Zambia and remain a small business in Zambia and service my niche in Zambia. I go with the same model, I put it in Botswana. I go with the same model, I put it in South Africa. So at the end of the day, I'm creating micronationals.
Interesting.
Yes. At the end of the day, the capital injection for a micronational is not big, because I'm establishing an SME, So that aspect, and consolidated, if you consolidate, the entire group becomes a multi-million-dollar business, but you have just put in small. And if you look at the drive that is in Africa, every country has got what we call a special economic zone. Zimbabwe has got a special economic zone, Sunway City. You go to Zambia, Lusaka South, Mount Pepos. You go to Botswana, there is Selibi Pikwe. You go to South Africa, the same. You go to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. So at the end of the day, the cost of establishment in those zones is very cheap. There are tax rebates, tax holidays, and everything. So my model is I'm riding on that and establishing more Glytimes. And then after, I'll then put a holding company of the Glytime. So here, I've got a shareholder. In Zambia, I'll have another shareholder. I do that. At the end of the day, my stake remains on the holding company, but different stakeholders at different intervals, at different localities. And so the model is simple. I'm consolidating that space, and I'm working towards now. I think if you ask me, where are you establishing? We are actually establishing in more than 2 countries now. As we speak, in terms of building, in terms of establishment and things like that. And that's the model that we want to follow. After 10 years, we are in 25 or 27 countries. We're a micro multinational, and if the room allows, we grow it to be a big institution based on the market dynamics, based on but the investment cost of establishment becomes very low. So that's the strategy. I'm also living in 2050, but this is how I'm also then planting in the necessary dynamics to consolidate that position.
Thank you, Leslie. That's all we've got time today to share. Yeah. But you've heard it from the chief in the making, a literal chief who's going global in a micro way. We love that. Thank you for being on our show today, Leslie. And stay tuned, share, like, and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you,
Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Faith, family, business, adventure. This is the Phoenix Podcast with Ken Sharpe.